What is the next step after finding a problem area that you are passionate about? For example, after looking internally, after looking at your experiences, looking at your geographic setting, asking yourself what are the unmet needs, you came up with a problem that you are passionate and willing to dedicate your time and energy to work on. It could be garbage collection in your estate, which you find that there's not enough solutions about. The next thing is to learn as much as you can about that problem. We just don't dive head on into finding solutions. I've seen so many people think of a problem and then the next thing they do is they're out there trying to come up with a solution. That is going ahead of yourself. The second thing you should do is to learn as much as you can about the problem area. And we do this through what we call secondary research. Why should we conduct research? I know it might seem like a boring step, but we need to learn as much as possible about the problem area we want to solve. Information is power. Innovation without research is like guessing in the dark. Research gives you direction, clarity, and validation. Some problem areas are just too big to solve in one go. For example, solving hunger among kids. It's just too big to solve. It's through research that you're able to narrow down to a specific pain point to work on in that broad problem area. In-depth research helps us reveal gaps in the market that even competitors have overlooked. It is very critical to do this research. What kind of research that I'm talking about here is what we call secondary research. It's what you do without talking to anyone. You use internet, you use magazines, you use books. For example, in your library, you can just go and read some books. We use secondary or second-hand data. While doing your secondary research, it's not aimless research. We are not doing research for the rest of our lives. We just need to answer a couple of questions. And once we are comfortable answering some of these questions, we are ready to move on. The first question is the what. We need to clearly describe the problem, its nature and characteristics. For example, garbage collection in your estate. We need to ask ourselves, what are the consequences for lack of proper garbage collection in our estate? Why is it important to solve this problem? Is it pressing enough to warrant a solution? What's the nature of this problem? And what are the characteristics of this problem that I've chosen to work on? Again, this is something that you ask yourself or you do an internet search, or for example, today we have the likes of AI and ChatGPT. These are the places to look for these sort of answers, books as well. The second question to ask yourself, which is also very critical, is who exactly is being affected by this problem that you have chosen? Who is affected? What are their characteristics? Does it affect one gender or more than one? What is the age group? Are they people between the age of 11 and 15? Are they between 18 and 25? Are they older? The point here is to know who exactly is facing that problem that you have decided to work on. It is critical. It is very hard to solve a problem for everyone on the planet. It helps if you can clearly articulate who that specific challenge you're working on affects in detail. The next thing after you've answered who we are solving for or who exactly is facing this problem and have analyzed their characteristics, we need to ask ourselves, where are these people? Are they concentrated in one geographic area? Are they sparsely populated around a large area in a country? Where are the people experiencing this problem? It is very, very important to answer this question. The next question you need to ask yourself is why the challenge has persisted. You're not the first person who has tried to solve this problem. If you are, that's quite new. But most of the time, they say there's nothing new under the sun. So try to do a little bit of research. You might find there are people who have tried to work on this problem. But why has the challenge persisted? Why is the problem still there? These are very good questions to ask yourself. You can also ask yourself, what are the causes of this problem? If it's poor garbage collection in your estate, what are some of the factors causing this? Is it that the people in the estate are not educated enough to understand proper waste disposal? Is it that we don't have a dedicated company organization coming to collect this data? What are the root causes for that problem? I hope that makes sense. The final question you can ask yourself is, how does this happen? How does this problem happen? And that's a question you can ask yourself. These are just some of the questions that we strive to answer when doing secondary research. After doing your own personal research, probably through online materials or books, then comes another very, very critical step. Who else is already working on this problem? It is a critical step, and it's called previous attempts. Who else is already working on this challenge? You need to identify the people who are trying to solve this problem. Why? Because we need to determine what is working, what is not working. What is it they have tried to work on and has not worked? Unlike before, this is actually a checklist. It is a requirement for you to answer these questions.